I'm sure many of you would have seen that disgusting video of Surrey police ramming that poor 10-month-old calf who had escaped from a local farm, who was probably terrified out of her mind, probably looking for her mom, not knowing where to go, where to seek safety, being surrounded by loud noises and humans chasing them around and laughing. That poor calf, she needed a kind and gentle person who could help her and lead her to safety, but instead she got rammed. The amount of vegans in the comments was very interesting, so I thought that I would go through some of these comments, some of the top comments, and see what people are saying about this, because a lot of people were absolutely disgusted, and rightfully so, with Surrey police for what they did. And they were calling for the officer who was driving the vehicle to be sacked, to be locked up, to be penalised, which is crazy, right? Because when I post videos of animal cruelty, it's mostly people trying to justify it, and that's when the animals don't survive. But when they're not getting killed, or when people aren't getting some kind of pleasure from it, then suddenly they care. Weird. Right, so the first comment we've got RC198028. What the f***, or what the? They've spelt that. This is disgusting. The police officer needs locking up for animal cruelty. This is completely unnecessary. Ridiculous decision. This officer is not fit to serve us. Appalling. Well, what do you think of slaughterhouses? Are they necessary? They can't be necessary. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such thing as vegans, would they? Is that disgusting? Do slaughterhouse workers need locking up for animal cruelty? Or people who are paying for animals to be decapitated, do they need locking up for animal cruelty too? Next up, we've got T. Bradburn. Officer should be sacked. Disgraceful. If an officer should be sacked for injuring a non-human animal, what do you think should happen to the farmers and to the slaughterhouse workers who round animals up, take them to a slaughterhouse and kill them? What should happen to those people? Chris Breen, YM7QP, officer should be sacked 100%, no need for brutal attack on calf. So if running a calf over is brutal, what about the calves who get stabbed in the throat? That must be even worse than brutal. James Andrews, 62, my father was born in India where cows are sacred. This is shameful behaviour, as a true farmer would know exactly how to recover his cow without causing harm. Are you aware, James Andrew, that a true farmer sends his cows to the slaughterhouse to be harmed? Curbs 2307, that's disgusting. Poor cow didn't deserve that. What about all the other cows who are being sent to the slaughterhouse? Do they deserve that? This guy should be charged 100% for this. Fair enough if it was a raging bull doing damage to people, but it's an harmless cow, for fuck's sake. Show this video his kids and see what they think. Yeah, Curbs 2307, all cows, chickens and pigs, all domesticated animals are harmless and don't deserve what happens to them. Are you a vegan? Slimesmore UK, won't lie, I find it insane how many of the videos warn of graphic images. Most people might want to give slaughterhouse footage a watch if they are so offended by this. Yeah, I mean, at least we've got some sense here. I don't know if you're vegan, Slimesmore UK. But yeah, if you're offended by this, go and watch slaughterhouse footage and see what happens there to the animals. Watch the pigs being forced into gas chambers where they scream for up to a minute and bang their faces on the sides of the cage to try and escape. Lady Nikki, that was insane and truly unnecessary on the officer's part. We have similar situations like that in the US. but we let animal rescue handle it, or find any local farmers or ranchers that can help catch the cow. I'm just glad the animal is okay and being treated. You glad the animal's okay, are you? What, until it's their turn to be killed in the slaughterhouse? Because they won't be okay then. You do know that that's the whole purpose of this cow's existence, right? Is to be exploited and killed. BL for life. Gotta love all the people losing their minds about this. Meanwhile, they're probably stuffing a burger in their gobs or looking forward to a nice lasagna later. At least this cow actually got away with its life. But of course, you're all upset because you actually had to see the animal suffer this time. Yeah, I think you've got a point, BL for life. Because it's behind closed doors, they turn a blind eye and they don't want to watch and they don't want to see. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. Tom Payton, 84. What sickens me the most is how the police won't dare use this amount of force against horrible criminals, yet they'll do that to a poor defenseless animal. This country is... He is right, to be honest. This is complete speciesism. There could be an escaped criminal on the loose, and unless that criminal is about to shoot somebody else in the head, this would never happen. But because the animal isn't a human, they get treated differently just because of the body that they're born into. These non-human animals are treated worse than any criminal, and they've done nothing wrong. Desi Tots. That cop is a sociopath and should be dismissed and charged with animal cruelty and seen as a danger to the public. Well, Desi Tots, I couldn't agree more. I think that anybody who harms an animal should be charged with animal cruelty and they should be seen as a danger to the public. Does this also apply to the people who knowingly pay for animals to be sent to slaughterhouses? Otherwise, it's just a bit of an unfair standard to hold that cop to. Lemony Knit 8509. This police officer needs to be brought up on animal cruelty and abuse charges. That poor young calf must have suffered terrible injuries and trauma. Well, Lemony Knit 8509, you must be a vegan because there are so many poor young calves, right? Not much older than this one, sometimes younger, that suffers terrible injuries and trauma. Do you consume dairy? Do you know that the calves in the dairy industry are taken from their mothers whilst they're babies? Are you aware that the male calves are often considered useless and they're sent to a slaughterhouse as babies? Do you think that they get injured there? Do you think it's traumatic for them? Watch Dairy is Scary. What is the RSPCA going to do about this? My heart breaks for this poor cow that done no harm to anyone. This policeman should go to jail right away. I'm sorry to break it to you, but the RSPCA aren't gonna do. Have you seen the cruelty that the RSPCA condones? Have you seen the investigations from all of those RSPCA assured farms? Do you know that they endorse gas chambers for pigs? Animals can't rely on the RSPCA. The Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals should be the RSPCP, the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Pets, because they're another speciesist organisation who cares about some species but not others. Heather Ross. 6328. Dear God, this poor animal. He was obviously lost, poor soul. This is appalling and deliberate animal cruelty. There are humane ways to deal with this, for crying out loud, other than injuring or killing an animals. I really hope you're vegan, Heather Ross. There are no humane ways to kill an animal who doesn't want to or need to die. And that is definitely deliberate animal cruelty. This one is just absolutely shocking to me, right? It's got 387 likes. Farmer Ferg. As a dairyman, This boils my blood. Absolutely ridiculous. So as somebody who forcibly impregnates cows, takes their calves away, exploits and abuses animals until they're no longer profitable, until they no longer make him money. This is just a typical dairy farmer. We care so much about our cows, and how dare somebody do this when they're the ones who are inflicting so much worse on these cows day after day. John Smith, FZ2DM. I recognise that username. Maybe John follows me because I recognise that username. John Smith has said, interesting, would you like to inform everybody what happens to a dairy cow once she's spent? Great point, John Smith. And the farmer has responded in the thread, we are a business. Cows are treated fantastic until they are spent. We don't line them up and run them over with tractors. Cows are treated fantastic until they are spent. Farmer Ferg, I'm surprised that you're acknowledging that cows are only treated fantastic until they're no longer profitable to you. What is your definition of fantastic? In the dairy industry, cows are raped, they have their babies taken, they're used as milking machines, being milked twice a day. They've been selectively bred to produce 10 times more milk than what's natural. So sometimes they have to wear shackles on their back legs to stop something called splitting, where their legs split apart. Is that being treated fantastic? I'm presuming by treated fantastic, Farmer Ferg means that they get a roof over their head, a bit of shelter, from the wind and the rain, maybe a bit of straw put down, and they get fed enough calories, not so that they can continue making money for them, but because they want to be kind to them, nothing to do with the fact that they're making profit off of their bodies. We don't line them up and run them over with tractors. No, you line them up trembling in a kill line where they can see, hear and smell the other cows in front of them being killed, and then they come out chopped into pieces. John Pretty 1. This is an interesting one because John Pretty 1 has said, I eat meat, but I regard this police action as evil. Cruel idiots. That's got 119 likes. And I find it interesting how people are... why say that I eat meat? Obviously, that's been brought into question as to what that cow's purpose was or is. That cow's fate still hasn't been sealed yet. Well, it hasn't at this moment in time that I'm recording this video. But, yeah, weird that he said that. There's obviously some cognitive dissonance, maybe some guilt going on there from John Pretty. If it's evil to ram a calf with a car, what is it to decapitate them? What's worse, being rammed with your car or having your head chopped off? Louise Smith, SH6MO. That's a scared baby calf, not a cow, and in no way a threat. What a terrible way to catch an animal. This must be reported. RSPCA must be informed. Again, sorry to break it to you. RSPCA don't care. RSPCA put their seal of approval on cows' body parts. In no way a threat. What are all of the animals, all of the 5-week-old chickens and all of the 6-month-old pigs and the 18-month-old cows who are being forced into a slaughterhouse? Are they a threat? Farmer of the cow needs to press charges against them. So the farmer of the cow, the person who's responsible for bringing that cow into existence to be exploited and harmed, should press charges against somebody for harming the cow. Because it's okay if the farmer does it, but God forbid if somebody else does. That's got 285 likes. Wow. Zandvoort 8616. This is an absolute disgrace. The cow was posing no immediate risk to the general public. Animal abuse at the highest level, and the police person concerned should be prosecuted. The owner of the cow should also be prosecuted for poor custody of this animal. Absolutely disgusting behaviour, sickening. Wow. Imagine if a human person had escaped from the person who's trapping them. Should their captor be prosecuted for poor custody of that person? Of course not, because that person shouldn't have an owner, because they're a living being, not property. It's the same for non-human animals. There's no morally relevant difference. And if that's animal abuse at the highest level, Zandvoort 8616, you must live a very sheltered life. Because compared to some of the footage that I've seen, that is tame. User M3CY8CQ20. This footage is so distressing. I've never seen such cruel stuff in my whole life. Again, you must lead a very sheltered life. I wonder where you're from. Maybe we need to go and start an AV chapter where this person lives. I wonder, will the farmer be compensated? Never mind the poor cow who's been hit. Poor farmer. Will the farmer be compensated? Never mind the cow who's needed stitches in her leg. Never mind the cow who's being exploited and abused and being chased through the streets, being knocked down. But will the farmer be compensated? How about, will that cow get to go to a sanctuary and live the rest of her life free from harm and exploitation? That should be the concern here. SRCZ5YY. Thank God the poor calf is still alive after the distress and trauma. Those officers need to be prosecuted. That is pure animal cruelty. Well, you do realise the purpose of that poor calf's existence is to be killed eventually, right? Thank God the poor calf is still alive. I hope this person doesn't pay for animal products. If you're saying, thank God that poor calf is alive after experiencing distress and trauma, and then you're paying for another calf to be killed after experiencing distress and trauma, there's a massive contradiction. And finally, we have Carl Connor FF, the spaghetti bolognese advert following this put this in a unique perspective. Yeah, very interesting, because many people, they don't associate the end product, they don't associate the meat, the dairy, the eggs with the animal themselves, because they're so far removed from what happens to the animal. And that's why it happens. If everybody could see what happens in a slaughterhouse, every comment section would be full of people, good-hearted people who care, speaking out for animals. These people, they just need to make the connection and go vegan, because if you're empathetic towards this poor calf who's been brutally hit by these police officer bullies, when they're in a moment of distress, trying to look for somewhere safe to go, and they get mowed down like that, if you have empathy for this cow, then you should be vegan, because this cow represents all the other animals who are also so vulnerable and afraid right now in slaughterhouses. They're standing in a kill line and they're experiencing worse trauma than what you've just witnessed, and you're paying for it. So basically, you should all go vegan and don't pay for animals to be abused if you're against animal abuse.